I think about Chris Bumstead when you talk about that, someone who's just retired. I wonder how much he's been able to get in and get out, so to speak.
The more you can get in and get out, the better. For someone like Chris Bumstead, I mean, his degree of muscle mass and body weight that he carries for his height and frame were never like insane.
When you've built your entire career on being the smartest person in the room, what happens when everyone discovers the foundation might be cracked? I'm talking about someone with a self-proclaimed IQ off the charts, literally maxing out standardized tests at above 160, a PhD holder who turned academic credentials into a multi-million subscriber empire, a man who confidently critiqued 8-time Mr. Olympia winners and made it seem reasonable. But here's where things get interesting, and if you want to see how reputations crumble in real time, smash that subscribe button, because we're about to dissect one of fitness YouTube's most spectacular implosions. Today we're examining how Dr. Mike Israetel went from being one of the most trusted voices in exercise science to fighting accusations of academic fraud, how a decades-old dissertation became the ammunition that threatened everything he built, and most importantly, how his response to criticism turned a manageable situation into a full-blown credibility crisis. This is the anatomy of a downfall that nobody saw coming. Let me take you back to where this all began, not with the controversy, but with the rise.
Dr. Mike Israetel has been labelled by Jared Feather, a close friend of his, as a bad bodybuilder and one of the worst clients he's ever coached. But why? You would think he has good muscularity, he's jacked, he's bigger and stronger than Mike. Why wouldn't he be a great bodybuilder? Well, what people don't understand is that there's a lot more to bodybuilding than just having muscle.
Mike Israetel didn't stumble into fitness authority by accident. His journey started in high school when he joined the wrestling team, though not for the reasons you'd expect. While most kids were focused on winning matches, Mike was having philosophical realizations about training methodology. Picture this, a teenage wrestler getting punished with extra exercises, but instead of dreading it, he's thinking, if training makes us better, shouldn't more training be a reward, not a punishment? That mindset became his signature approach: question everything, challenge conventional wisdom, trust the science. He pursued this obsession through formal education, kinesiology at Michigan University, a master's in exercise science from Appalachian State. But these weren't enough. Mike wanted the ultimate credential, the title that would put him above criticism: doctor.
Okay, I guess I'm Mike's friend. He's not here. So, Dr. Mike, first of all, I hope that you're being like tongue-in-cheek, kind of humorous. Otherwise, I fear either for your eyesight or your mental health.
So he enrolled in the Sport Physiology PhD program at East Tennessee State University. 3 years of research, 80 Division I athletes studied across 4 different sports, measurements of strength, power, vertical jump height, sprint speed, all the metrics that would later form the backbone of his teaching philosophy. In 2013, he earned his doctorate with a dissertation examining the interrelationships of fitness characteristics. That piece of paper changed everything. Suddenly, he wasn't just Mike the trainer, he was Dr. Mike Israetel, PhD in sport physiology. He landed professorships at Temple University and the University of Central Missouri, teaching courses that shaped the next generation of exercise scientists. But Mike's ambitions extended beyond lecture halls. Alongside his college friend Nick Shaw, Mike launched what would become Renaissance Periodization, later rebranded as RP Strength. The concept was revolutionary for its time, science-based fitness coaching delivered online, accessible to anyone with an internet connection.
I'm making an interesting bet on my health. This will be hilarious when I die before my due time. Called it, by the way, if anyone wants to talk about it. I'm thinking that about the mid-2030s, a lot of people will start to add more years to their lives than nature takes away. It's called longevity escape velocity.
In 2012, he created the RP YouTube channel. Initially, it was basic workout content, nothing that would make you stop scrolling. But as his audience grew, something shifted. Mike started integrating his academic knowledge into the videos. He'd break down concepts with the precision of a published researcher. Finding your minimum effective volume means analyzing several training cycles where you intentionally use as little volume as possible, seeing which threshold finally stops producing growth. If you're growing at 14 sets per week, great, drop to 11 sets. Still growing? Then 14 wasn't your minimum because you're adapting with less. This wasn't bro science. This was peer-reviewed methodology delivered with confidence and clarity. In an era where fitness YouTube was dominated by charismatic personalities making questionable claims, Mike offered something different: intellectual authority. He spoke with the certainty of someone who'd spent years in research labs, someone whose opinions were backed by graduate-level education, and people responded. The channel exploded.
And it was Mike Menser being like, people always ask me, you just do one set. Why wouldn't you do another? It's like the stupidest idea in the world. And it's like, multiple set programs were proven more effective, definitively, in the early 2000s.
3.8 million subscribers, invitations to major podcasts, successful mobile apps, published books. Mike had become the fitness guru for people who valued intelligence over aesthetics, science over anecdotes. But here's what separated Mike from other educated fitness professionals: his willingness to critique giants. He'd analyze Ronnie Coleman, an 8-time Mr. Olympia champion, and essentially say, yeah, everyone remembers those legendary heavy sets, but that's just for show. Ronnie actually built his physique doing conventional volume work. Don't confuse his peak performance with his growth phase. The audacity was magnetic. Here was a guy who looked at living legends and said, let me educate you on what actually worked. That confidence, some might call it arrogance, became his brand, and for years, it was untouchable.
What led you out of the darkness?
I basically went out and tried to find all the evidence on like what things work for depression. I tried everything with evidence and everything without evidence.
Nice.
I tried energy healers, right?
What the fuck is that?
Yeah, exactly. What the fuck is that? I mean, I tried the TMS, I tried TDCS, I did medication.
CBT?
I did CBT.
Every empire has its turning point. For Mike, it arrived in December 2019 through an unlikely source, Greg Doucette. Greg uploaded a video criticizing the science-based approach championed by coaches like Jeff Nippard, arguing that most people would benefit more from simply training harder rather than obsessing over volume calculations. People are lazy. People don't train hard. So telling someone to hold back when they're already holding back is idiotic. Tell them to work harder. Mike wasn't directly named, but as another prominent science-based coach, his audience asked for his reaction, and Mike delivered with characteristic dismissiveness. Greg never actually answers the question of how much volume, he just yells "go harder" a lot, which is entertaining but teaches you nothing. The response was cutting, intellectual, and played perfectly to Mike's base. His followers loved seeing him dismantle what they perceived as inferior reasoning. But Greg didn't let it slide.
Row right to the stomach from there. There it is. Big chest at the bottom. To our powerlifting audience, I'd like to make a formal apology. Mike Israetel set this up. I understand this is a deadlift bar. But, you know, Mike hasn't powerlifted in years, so I think he's just forgotten the etiquette. I'm very sorry.
What followed was a series of response videos, each one escalating the tension. Greg challenged Mike's practical experience. Mike doubled down on his academic credentials. The fitness community chose sides, and the comment sections became battlegrounds. For Mike, this seemed manageable, just another online disagreement that would fade with time. He'd weathered criticism before, and his PhD gave him armor that Greg's coach certification couldn't pierce. Or so he thought. Enter Solomon, a fitness content creator who'd been watching the drama unfold with growing interest. Unlike the typical response video format, Solomon decided to go deeper, much deeper. He did something almost nobody in fitness YouTube had attempted. He actually read Mike's PhD dissertation. Not just skimmed it, read it, analyzed it, and what he found was devastating. In a video that would change everything, Solomon methodically exposed issues that ranged from embarrassing to potentially disqualifying. Statistical errors throughout the methodology, correlation coefficients that mathematically couldn't exist, tables with data that didn't align with the supposed calculations, references that appeared fabricated or misattributed, the department name listed incorrectly, a detail so basic that it suggested either profound carelessness or something worse. Solomon didn't present this with anger or mockery. He walked through each problem with academic detachment, which somehow made it more damning. This wasn't a hit piece. This was a peer review delivered 12 years too late. And the fitness community erupted. Comments flooded in from people with research backgrounds. These aren't minor typos. These are fundamental errors that should have been caught by any competent committee. If these mistakes made it into the final version, what does that say about the rigor of his research process? The questions multiplied faster than answers could arrive, and Mike, for the first time in his career, went silent. When Mike finally addressed the situation, his strategy was interesting.
Pay attention because this is hurting my head and I want to see if you can make sense of this whole situation. So in 2013, Mike submits a dissertation and he gets awarded a PhD. Then roughly about 12 years later, an Australian bloke named Solomon Nelson claims to have gotten possession of said PhD, read through it and made a 1 hour long video saying it had scientific, punctuational and grammar errors, which basically made it a crap dissertation.
First move, restrict access to his dissertation. It suddenly became available only to alumni and current students of East Tennessee State University. To observers, this looked less like protecting intellectual property and more like hiding evidence. Second move, claim that Solomon had reviewed an early draft, not the final version. This defense had problems. Universities don't archive drafts in official repositories. Dissertation databases contain defendant-approved documents, not works in progress. Everyone with graduate experience knows this. But Mike doubled down. Instead of addressing it on his own massive platform, he appeared on Dr. Milo Wolf's channel, a friend who could provide a sympathetic setting. The video titled Dr. Mike Responds, The Truth About His PhD, had Milo defending Mike's honor, claiming he'd seen the real final version that corrected all of Solomon's identified errors. The version Solomon reviewed appears to be an early draft uploaded by mistake. The actual defended dissertation doesn't have most of these problems. Mike himself appeared, taking partial responsibility. I don't blame Solomon for going hard on this, because he reasonably thought he was reviewing the final draft. Most of his critiques don't apply to the actual version. Milo even suggested Solomon might have ulterior motives, noting he'd made over 10 videos featuring Mike, more than 13 hours of content targeting a single person. The implication was clear: this isn't academic criticism, it's obsession. For a moment, it seemed like Mike might weather the storm. His loyal audience wanted to believe him. The wrong draft explanation, while suspicious, was at least plausible. And then the internet did what the internet does best: investigated. People started examining the supposedly final version that Milo had presented, and the findings were catastrophic. The document Milo showed as the real dissertation was dated March 2013. Solomon's version, August 2013. By basic chronology, Solomon's version was actually later. Someone discovered edit history showing changes made by ETSU, presumably East Tennessee State University, in October 2025. The same month Solomon's video dropped. The timing wasn't coincidental, it looked like damage control. But here's the smoking gun. The Google Doc linked as proof of the real version wasn't owned by Mike or Milo. The owner was listed as a digital marketing agency. The metadata had been stripped, suggesting deliberate obfuscation. Comments captured the collective realization: how exactly does a first draft end up in the official university database? That's not how any of this works. So the March version is supposedly final, but the August version is the draft? Basic chronology says that's backwards. The defense collapsed under scrutiny, and with it, so did Mike's credibility on the specific issue he'd spent his career leveraging: academic rigor. Faced with overwhelming evidence, Mike shifted strategies again. He posted an admission that yes, the dissertation Solomon examined was indeed the correct document from the university archive, but he framed the issues as clerical errors, minor problems like misplaced negative signs and table formatting mistakes. This downplaying didn't land well. People with research backgrounds knew that correlation coefficients showing impossible values aren't clerical errors. They're fundamental misunderstandings of statistical analysis or fabricated data. Neither interpretation looked good. The fitness community split into camps. Some defended Mike, arguing that a 12-year-old dissertation shouldn't define his current expertise. Others saw it as the emperor has no clothes moment they'd been waiting for. What's remarkable isn't that Mike's channel collapsed. It didn't. He's actually gained subscribers throughout the controversy. His strategy of not addressing it on his main channel worked in terms of damage containment. But the long-term impact is different. There's now a permanent asterisk beside his name. Every time he cites research, someone remembers the dissertation. Every time he critiques another expert, someone points out his own academic problems. He tried to throw Solomon under the bus by questioning his motives. He inadvertently dragged Milo into the mess by having him present questionable evidence. The relationships and reputation built over decades sustained hits that subscriber counts can't measure. What makes this story fascinating isn't just one man's fall from grace, it's what it reveals about authority in the digital age. Mike built his brand on credentials that most people never verified. In fairness, why would they? A PhD from a legitimate university, professorships at respected institutions, these signal expertise. We accept them as shorthand for credibility. But the internet has changed the game. Your dissertation isn't locked in a university basement anymore. It's accessible, readable, reviewable by anyone with curiosity and time. Authority that once seemed permanent is now perpetually under examination. Mike's mistake wasn't having a flawed dissertation from 12 years ago. It was how he responded when someone finally looked. The cover-up, the deflection, the attempts to discredit critics. These amplified a manageable problem into a credibility crisis. If he'd said from day one, you know what, that dissertation has issues, I was younger, less experienced, and I learned a lot since then, would people have cared? Maybe briefly, but it wouldn't have become a multi-month saga with fabricated evidence and destroyed trust. Pride prevented the simple apology that could have ended everything. As of now, Mike continues creating content. His subscriber count remains strong. His businesses appear unaffected. By conventional metrics, he survived. But something intangible changed. The aura of intellectual superiority, the very thing that separated him from countless other fitness coaches, has cracks visible to anyone paying attention. Future collaborators will think twice. Academic institutions will scrutinize his credentials. Critics have ammunition that never expires. And in an industry where trust converts to revenue, those cracks matter more than subscriber counts suggest. This is still developing. There might be more revelations, further responses, or maybe everyone moves on to the next controversy. That's the nature of internet drama, perpetually unfinished. If you want to follow how this evolves and see our analysis of future developments, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the updates. Because if there's one lesson from Mike Israetel's situation, it's this. In the age of digital accountability, nothing stays buried forever. The credentials you use to build your empire can become the very weapons used to question it. Your reputation is only as solid as your willingness to defend it honestly. And sometimes, the smartest person in the room needs to remember that intelligence isn't just about having answers, it's about acknowledging when you got something wrong.